Be real brief. Lawrence Aldrich, Senior Business Development Manager here at Capital Good Fund. What I did say is that, we are the only nonprofit CDFI in the immigration space in the country. And we started these sessions. I think this is our 8th session. We started these sessions last year really to, engage our partners, our attorneys and other organizations with what we're doing in the immigration space, and to always, kind of be in contact with them as we continue to help them, close more loans and help more families in the country. I went on to say that I think my first AILA conference was in June of 2022. And, that was my first conference. And I kept on getting stopped everywhere in the conference hall and conference sessions because they thought I was attorney Alan Orr. So everybody was walking up, hey, Alan Orr, hey, Alan Orr. I'm like, no, I'm not Alan Orr. I'm Lawrence Aldrich with Capital Good Fund. And I'd love to talk to you about our immigration loan product. So with that being said, because I messed this thing up to begin with, I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Orr and to Andy to start our conference and to talk our webinar and to talk about the impact of immigration alliances. And then we will talk about a little bit more with Roxana and Maricarmen about our process in detail. So Andy and Alan, the floor is yours.
Attorney Orr, if you want to get started.
Sure. No, so, I'm Alan Orr. I'm a former president of AILA. I do a lot of community work. Most of my low work is nonprofit. Because a lot of immigrants just don't have access to get to the system. So I also work in the nonprofit space. I'm on the board of Haitian Bridge Alliance. I've served on the board of the Immigration Council. I work exclusively almost with Black immigrants. In my professional life, I do a lot of I-9 compliance work as well as visa acquiring work. And I also work on legislative stuff. So I'm happy to be with you to talk about alliances today. So, Andy.
Yeah, thanks so much. And yeah, I'm Andy. I'm the founder and CEO of Capital Good Fund. My mom is an immigrant from Ukraine. She came here from the USSR in the 1970s. So immigration is near and dear to my heart, just from my family history. And then, a little bit of the background for how we got into this was when I was starting the organization back in 2008, 2009, I was doing a lot of focus groups in the community in Providence, Rhode Island, where we're headquartered. And I speak Spanish, so we were doing a lot of focus groups with Dominican folks and others. And people kept telling me that one of their needs when it comes to capital, access to capital, was for immigration expenses, which had never crossed my mind as a need. And as soon as I realized that need, I was like, oh, wow. This is just such an opportunity for impact. And actually, the first loan that we did was in April of 2009 for a woman from the Dominican Republic to apply for US citizenship. And we're now offering this product in 11 states and really eager to just continue to grow it and change lives through the Unity loan.
Right. Well, I guess I can take the space to sort of say why I think it's important on both ends, right? So I'm an attorney, so I'm in business to make work. And a lot of work around immigration is seen as pro bono work. And that's not fair to immigrant lawyers, right? People who do immigration as a law practice, because we also have a law school, we also have bills, we also have things that we need to pay. So one of the things that, this organization does for us is it bridges the gap in the war to ensure that every immigrant has someone to represent them, because an immigrant with a lawyer has a 5-time better percentage of an outcome with their case than an immigrant that does not have a lawyer. And sometimes the biggest barrier is having all the costs up front, right? Because you have to pay the filing fees on the date you're sort of filing for asylum or you're making whatever case you're making. And that may be, while to some, not a lot of money, but for an immigrant, that could be, rent or other things that they might need to sort of base it on. So when I heard about the Good Fund and what it was doing, I thought this is really important to new lawyers who are moving in the field to help immigrants who might not have the same income as some of the companies that I represent to be able to finance their way to having citizenship, because there are millions of immigrants there who never get citizenship because of the cost, or having someone help them get their loved one out of deportation because now they have an attorney who can help maneuver the system to ensure they check the right boxes to make sure they get an adequate hearing. So in this space, in the partnership, in the alliance that we have, this is a great alliance for immigration attorneys to work with to let their clients know, if you don't have the profitability to make it all the way today, here's a resource for you, an option, another option that might make it successful to you. Some people may fall into pro bono and some people may fall out of pro bono. And there are a lot of people who fall out of pro bono right now because the need is just so great. So in that alliance for having a successful practice and keeping immigrant lawyers employed, the Good Fund has been very useful to our members, which are 17,000 immigration attorneys. In addition to that, we don't have enough attorneys. If we have 17,000 attorneys and there was a migration bill that passed tomorrow that gave access, let's start with small, just parole in place to individuals who have spouses that are in the United States, we might not have enough attorneys to address the 300 or 400,000 individuals who might want to go to the immigrant system alone. So one of the ways to make sure that lawyers stay in immigration is to make sure it's profitable, because a lot of lawyers, when they run their practice, especially in removal, you might see a client in 2021, and then they might not be again in court until 2025. And if you're sort of doing it on an hourly basis, it's not going to work out for you. Or if you're doing a one-time fee for just filing one thing, it'd be very difficult to make it work, and you'd have such a big burden in your docket. So those are some of the areas where, for law practice management, this was a need that your organization meets.
And from my vantage point, one of the things that you said, Attorney Orr, that really resonated with me is, for better or for worse, in America, he or she who has the best lawyer often wins. And it's precisely the people that we all serve that are most in need of the kind of legal representation you provide and are least able to afford it. And so our product is really a bridge to giving people access to the best opportunity to win their case. And sure, there may be a low bono or a pro bono option, but as we know, that can take longer. They might get distracted. The caseworker you're working with might leave the organization. And so I really want low-income immigrants to be able to work with a lawyer who's doing this in a way that is sustainable and profitable for the attorney, so that they're going to be there for the long haul over their case.
And so one of the worlds that we're sort of living in now is the competition between immigrants, between the resources that are given to one group and not to another group. And this also fits that need. And so recently I am going to start sharing the Good Fund with more of the Black immigrant families, because as you may have noticed, that equity in immigration follows equity in life. It's not always equally diffuse, whereas some groups, Ukrainians, may not have to pay any fees, whereas other groups, such as Haitians, need to pay all the fees. And so this bridges a gap that allows individuals who work with a certain contingency that might not be getting the equity that the government's giving out right now, or the best fee waivers the government's giving out, to be able to access that. So I think it's important to note that the Good Fund works across, it sort of levels those equities out to give access, although the funding is different because some people have waived fees, while justice sort of catches up to that. So there are a number of things that are recently happened, such as TPS for certain nationalities that might happen, are deferred. And there may be actually some changings that are coming also to people who are from the Middle East. And we just need to have people in place to say, well, because they may be funding their family abroad and trying to access some immigration stuff here, such as the new parole program for many individuals, which may put a strain on their financial situation. And they may be looking for opportunities for this. So I say that to say that, what I hope will happen is that in these migration spaces where pro bono has been the go-to place, that they will also include this as another option, so that people can say, oh, wait a minute, I can't afford this, because as the reality sort of happens, I know for a fact that many migrants have some income that they can use towards something. For example, maybe the boat ride from Haiti to Miami, maybe not the best legal way to do it, that they could be funding a lawyer to help them get the right process in place, to get the right justice, to get the right answers. So that one of the problems we have in this space is that sometimes people spend a little bit of money and put their loved ones in a worse situation. And being able to fund a lawyer to make sure that that individual isn't in that situation is primary concern for every attorney, right? If we could sort of help everyone, there are a lot of, DC, for example, has an advice and referral where we just see tons of attorneys for 4 hours on Saturday. And we just basically tell them, you can't do this, you can't do that. This is what you should think about. This is what you should go to. This is what you need to wait. There's no relief from you, rather than have someone who's just out there sort of taking money and giving bad advice.
Can I chime in here?
Sure.
Because we're talking about alliances, Attorney Orr and Andy, and from a business development standpoint and aspect, and most of everyone that's on this call is a partner of ours, right? But for those attorneys that haven't seen the light yet as it relates to the product that we can offer, can you shed any light, additional light on, building those alliances with attorneys that are kind of skeptical of what we're trying to do here?
Right. So I haven't used the product, but I have many members who have. As I said before, I have corporate clients, so it's a little bit of a different situation for me. And we have a very good relationship with AILA, and AILA vets every vendor that they're putting before our attorneys to get to our clients, because one, we don't want our attorneys to have bar rule issues, and two, we want to make sure that we're doing successful stuff. So the AILA brand in immigration is important to us. So as a vendor, we vetted you. I think the best thing that attorneys that are using this can do is to share, because that's the best way to sort of bring people to the space, is to share what the opportunity is, share what the resource is, and sort of tell the victory of how it happened. So for example, when a client does get that successful naturalization and they have used the funding method, to say, this client was able to access this because of this funding method, right? And then ask that client to then go in and tell that story, because that's sort of the way it sort of spreads. Because one of the things that everybody's sort of watching out for now is what I spoke about earlier, notarios, people who are not access to practice law in this space. And people are very concerned about signing or getting themselves in a situation that will put them in a disadvantage over the long haul, which generally leads people to inaction. So, my being here today, hopefully this recording will go places, because people know my brand, do a lot of television with regards to immigrant access, sort of says, okay, this is something that I'm related to, putting my name on, so it's not going to harm individuals, right? So that's the first thing, to show that there's no harm, and it's only accessible in these certain states. So part of it is telling the story. And we need to be the storytellers of our clients who are being successful, and also for them to spread it to their resources, to their other groups. In my Indian national groups, they have, I don't know, group chats or chat chains, or I don't know, email listservs or Facebook groups, where they share information that you would not believe. They come at me with, my friend or this friend or that friend. You need to have the same sort of friend network with this sort of access to funding for relief in immigration, and the ability that individuals were able to meet the charge and pay it off, right? The success of moving forward and sort of building good credit, sort of the stepping stones to being a well-rounded U.S. citizen, because citizenship and access are important. I agree. Many people say, just give me the work authorization. Having stability or economic mobility within the United States economy is also super important to immigrants, right? We're not trying to build an underclass. We're trying to build access to the American dream. And that access includes good credit rating, right? And being able to sort of move forward in that step. And this program allows them to have that platform to sort of move forward. And so that's important for immigrants to understand too, or maybe even people who've been challenged in the past, as we sort of renegotiate what good credit is in this country. So those two factors together with alliances, right? Spreading the word, one, put it on your website too, right? I mean, I don't know why I've never thought, just share it with people and say, here is another funding mechanism. You see it every, other place does it. If you go to your dental office and they want to do a dental procedure, they're going to tell you, here's another way that you can pay for this. We should also advertise, here's another way to pay for this. Here's another way to access this, that maybe they do have the money, but maybe that's all of their money, right? So maybe some people, like with a car, you could buy a car or you could finance a car. Most people choose to finance the car rather than just pay out of pocket, because you might need the cash for something else. So there are a lot of situations where this may work to benefit other individuals, and just thinking about that now in this world where there's a lot of natural interest waivers and companies don't want to sponsor them, maybe that foreign national who is doing okay, making $60,000, $70,000 a year, might want to say, okay, I'll try this. I'll do this loan program to do the natural interest waiver to be able to afford the upfront cost, and then pay it down over time to have access to getting a green card. So we should think about this on all fronts, to who it allows access to and what the vehicle is, right? The vehicle, if you have the money, okay, great, you can give. If you don't have the money or you can't use the money right now, here's another way to access this sort of funding. And I think doing that for your office may distinguish you, and then that will also make attorneys wonder why you're being so successful. Like, how are you getting so many clients and I'm not, right? How are you paying your bills and I'm not? Because that's one of the largest challenges immigration lawyers have, is that we go to law school and we learn law, but we don't learn business management. We don't learn what the office procedures are and how to collect and all those things. And those are complex issues in a removal, or if you're doing a multi-practice, because you may go to a court hearing for one client and be there for 4 hours. It's difficult to charge that client who may have limited funds for all 4 of those hours. So in some ways, you would either say, I can't give that client access, or you have to mitigate that some other way by taking a loss within your practice. Having this access gives you a better stability to sort of reach that in.
I'd like to.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Andy. Nope.
I was just going to add kind of a call to action, which is that right now, what we're doing a good job of solving for is a scenario in which somebody comes to an attorney partner of ours for a consult, finds out they're eligible for whatever adjustment of status or case, but then gets sticker shock and can't afford it and walks away. So I think our product's that's what we're doing a great job of solving for. The holy grail in my mind is, how do we reach out to the immigrant who has an immigration issue, but doesn't even go to get a consult with an attorney because they just, in their mind, paying for an attorney just seems inconceivable. That's to me where building, speaking of alliances, trying to reach out to the community groups, just even the communities, whether it's the WhatsApp channel or the congregation, that one I think is a little bit harder, right? Because once they're with the attorney, if the attorney is your trusted source to mention a financing product, I think if you go straight to the community member, they might be a little bit more skeptical. I don't have an answer for that, but I do want to plant that seed, as that would be an incredible way to get more business for everyone, but of course reach immigrants who really have no shot currently of improving their immigration status.
So I think there are people in this country who have given up hope because they've seen a lot of people. In my DC consults with the DC bars, there are a lot of people who want to do something and just don't know what to do and don't have the access to do it. And, there are some people who just, want the pro bono. So in that space, one of the alliance partners you need at the table is the pro bono world of attorneys, pro bono, low bono world of attorneys, to say, here's a product. So maybe, I don't know if you talk to the DC bar about your product, or the bar organization about saying, here's something that, at your immigration clinic or at whatever clinic, at law school clinics, for example, because, one of the things that we do at these clinics is say, well, how much money do you have? How many people are in your house? And some people, have, more money than they'll meet the platform to be able to go to Catholic Charities or somewhere else. And so then what happens to those individuals, right? I have 8 kids, but I'm making too much money for this program. What happens to me? So to meet that need, I think that's working with different bar organizations would be step number 1. Step number 2 is, there's nothing bigger than churches in every organization, in every community. If the church says, we have a good experience with this, or they want to talk to you about this, then those community churches that are serving the migrant communities are great spaces to sort of place the product, right? And, most churches will all say, well, what's the community give back to that, right? Well, the community give back to that is stability, right? These individuals are getting status. These individuals are able to vote. These individuals are able to sort of change the community around them. So that would be another one of the focuses. Inside my world, which I think Reed Trout at AILA does a good job of, is bringing this into new lawyers who are setting up their practice to say, wait a minute, you got your fees. Here's another thing that you might be able to access when doing it. But I think also arming attorneys with the one-click button or the one-click soundbite that you would find, when you check out on Amazon, better yet, not Amazon, it's not a good example. When you check out in your airfare, the very first thing that pops up is, you can do this affinity thing where you can pay for it monthly, right? So a way to incorporate that into their payment system, because every lawyer uses some platform for that intake, for that to come up in the platform would be useful if you're able to mechanicalize that. So like all of our immigration form systems give us a web code that we can add them to our website, to be able to add the good fund to someone's website to say, here's another pricing opportunity for you to sort of reach that, would be another way to sort of reach people in a large space.
Wonderful. And as we wrap up this section of the webinar, I'd just like to comment on 2 things you said, Attorney Orr. One, I do all the vetting of our attorney partners that we're bringing on board, and organizations. And I can tell you there are a large number of firms that don't have websites. But what they do use is that social media, that Facebook, that Instagram, that TikTok, which is very heavy. So we need to, spread that message of alliances and financing for these particular immigration cases through that media platform. The other thing you mentioned was And I say this, it seems like in every presentation, I'm a recovering banker, and I've dealt with hundreds of attorneys from the banking aspect. Attorneys are great at the law, but running a business, not so good. Okay. And as it relates to accounts receivable and having accounts receivable, and even if you're a solo practitioner, it's mind boggling to me. And I get it. Attorneys are very special individuals. If you're going to be an immigration attorney, you're a very special person, but you have to run the business. And we, with our product and service, can help them, manage those receivables and that cash flow and impact the bottom line. So, thank you so much for spending time with us this morning and talking a little bit about alliances and the importance of alliances and what we can do to grow those alliances and help more individuals and more families. You're definitely welcome to stay if you wish, but we're going to move the presentation on now to talk about our process. And one of the most important things that we're trying to do here, like I said earlier, or maybe I didn't because I was on mute, was to engage with our partners that are referring business to us, right? And what we want to do is make sure we have a smooth process from consultation at the firm to application to closing. And we want to close as many loans as we possibly can. We'd love to be at 100%, but realistically, that's not, that can't happen. But, we do have a high approval rate and we do close a lot of business. So what we're going to talk about right now, and I'm going to hand it over to Roxana and Maricarmen, is to really talk about, the process, what's successful in terms of onboarding and how you can help your clients, right? Get from that consultation to closing and how we can get funds once the loan is closed into your accounts. So with that being said, Roxana, it's all yours.
Thank you, Lawrence. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, those who already work with us and any new attorneys just listening in. I'm going to touch on 3 quick points before I pass it over to Maricarmen, but we got a lot of questions about onboarding. Like, what do I have to do? How can I get started? Sometimes when attorneys find us, they already have a couple of clients that are ready to go. They want to start sharing information. So I'm just going to go over the simple steps. So we're defining this under 3 steps. So first, you want to have an intro call. The intro call is super important. If you end up referring to us before the intro call, that's completely fine. But we usually recommend and we prefer to have an intro call first because we walk you through our process. We give you some time to engage in some questions and answers. We provide you with some resources. So if you haven't already, please book an intro call with Lawrence. Other people present will be myself, Maricarmen, who's our immigration specialist, and also our immigration loan officer. That way you can put a face to our team and you can also, we can address any concerns that you may have. The second step is that right after that call, we're going to send you an ACH form through Adobe. So on this ACH form, you'll tell us how you want to get paid. So you can either give us an operating account or a trust account that you want us to deposit the funds to. Some attorneys have their own preferences. Some are send everything to my operating account. Others are send everything to my trust account. Some want to split it up. So you just let us know on the form. We will use this form to process the ACH deposits each time one of your clients gets approved and they sign a contract. You usually will see that within 1 or 2 business days. And if the bank account ever changes, you just send us a quick email. We'll send you a new form and then we'll put it on file. And then the third step is just review our immigration checklist. We've created a roadmap that you can print out. You can, reference yourself or give it to your clients at consultation. And it runs through everything. It runs to our product, the terms, communication channels, what documents, your client is expected to send over, and even our eligibility requirements to apply for the loan. So that's just a way in a simple few pages to really understand the process and get familiar with it. And even for clients that don't, are not eligible at the time, they can stay with that resource and come back to us later. I also wanted to talk about disbursement a little bit more. So 80%, or I would even say 90% at this point of our disbursements are through ACH. We've made that change because, ACH, you get it super fast within a day or 2. a lot of immigration cases have, you know, we want to operate with a sense of urgency because we understand you're on a timeline. So, but there may be some cases where you might request a check, or maybe in the past you receive a check from us and, you know, if the case took long, you're now just using the check. So there are two scenarios where you might be engaging with us about a check. Maybe your check expired and we previously, you know, sent it out a couple of months ago. The check expires in 180 days. So just check the date on the check first. If it's been more than 180 days, you can go ahead and mail the check back to us. Or maybe you had a check for immigration fees and then you later discovered that the process changed, you no longer need the check. In both cases, just mail it back to us. And then just send us a quick email giving us a heads up that, you know, we're receiving that. Upon receiving it, for any unused funds, we will credit the funds back into the loan account for the client. That way they won't pay that capital or interest. And then for expired checks, we'll issue a new one to you. And then for your ACH funds, sometimes we get a few questions about, you know, where is the ACH? Has it been received? Sometimes clients will directly contact us. One important note I want to make is that to check your spam and junk emails. Sometimes emails will navigate there for some reason. We don't know why, but make sure you check that. You can also do a wide search of Capital Good Fund on your email. After every single closing, our team will send you an email saying, you know, John Smith has closed today for $3,000. You will receive a deposit on April 26th. So that is your receipt of your payment. That way, when you receive a deposit into your operating or trust account, you can basically address like which client it's for. That way you can identify it. Now, if you've completed these steps, like you checked the email, you checked your bank deposits in your operating and trust account, and you can't find the deposit, just send us a quick email. We'll make sure to get that deposit out to you as soon as possible. But usually we've noticed that after these steps, attorneys will come back and say, oh, wait, I found it. So just complete these steps. And, you know, if anything went wrong with the ACH, we'll make sure to get that over to you. And that's all for me. Just some quick reminders. I will go ahead and pass it over to Maricarmen to talk a little bit about our immigration form.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Maricarmen Burgos. I am the immigration loan specialist here at Capital Good Fund. For my section, I'm going to be going over the importance in completing the IVF accurately and correctly. As you may know, the IVF is our immigration verification form that provides us with basic information in order to process your client's loan application. You will receive a link via email to fill out this form anytime your referred client submits their application online through our website. Today, I'm going to be covering two very important topics in regards to filling out the IVF. These topics are going to be discrepancies in the fee breakdown portion and the beneficiary section. If either of these sections are not filled out correctly, it can cause delays in our review that can affect the process. Some tips on how to achieve the most accurate IVF is to separate the process payments from outside balances. When calculating the client expenses, please take note that the fees the client already paid for are considered out-of-pocket expenses, and the fees that are owed by the client are what you will be including in the fee breakdown. So what this means is that the total breakdown of the fees on your IVF should equal the amount that your client is requesting on their application. Makes sense. For example, so if your client is requesting $10,000, however, your breakdown is $5,000, then this discrepancy can cause a delay in the process because we're going to need to contact you and the client to clarify. If our client's request matches what the IVF breakdown shows, this is not going to hinder us from proceeding with the review, and we can just move forward. As you can see here, this is just a screenshot of the out-of-pocket payments in the IVF. So if your client had already paid a portion out of pocket, then you would just click yes, and then provide the estimate of the total cost that the client already paid. And then over here are the fee breakdown. So this is where you're going to add your USCIS fees, your organization fees, and any other fees, and then the total. This is the total requested loan amount without the out-of-pocket payment. So now moving forward to the beneficiary portion, when filling out this portion of the IVF containing the beneficiary information, this will also need to be accurate in order to process and review it correctly. For example, in asylum cases, Capital Good Fund requires a co-applicant if the beneficiary is the one partaking in asylum proceedings. So here's an example of how this can affect the asylum case applicants. The applicant is the beneficiary of the asylum case and applies for a loan, but the attorney did not list them as the beneficiary. So in this case, the specialist is going to request a TPS approval or a co-applicant. But we have to make sure that he is actually the beneficiary of the loan. So this would cause a delay. And then on the second example, the beneficiary's partner or family member applies for a loan. The attorney does not list them as a beneficiary. And then we would still request TPS approval or a co-applicant when this request would have been void and we could have moved forward to our underwriting.
Thank you so much, Maricarmen. I know that the beneficiary portion can be a little bit confusing, and I know that was a change that all our attorneys went through. So if anyone has any questions about any of these slides, please feel free to contact us. You know, we can always book a refresher call with Lawrence and Maricarmen to go over these things, or we can look over an example of an application that recently came in. But yeah, that does wrap up our information here. This is just a quick example of the beneficiary section that Maricarmen talked about, and I will pass it over to Lawrence.
Okay, good. I'm not on mute. Thank you, Roxana. So, you know, this is the time that we have allocated in being very respectful of everyone's time for Q&A. So if there are any questions that you have, please ask away. You can put it in the chat, or we can just unmute yourself and ask any particular question. Please know that no question is a question that should not be asked, because if you're thinking about it but don't want to ask it, someone else is probably thinking about it as well. So are there any questions there from our audience concerning our presentation today about building alliances, or, you know, the process, you know, and seeing how we can help you even more, you know, clear more loans through Capital Good Fund? Any questions? You will see a QR code right there. If you have your phones, please scan the QR code and provide feedback. We always look for feedback and ways to improve our offerings. So please don't hesitate to scan that code and provide the feedback. Just a short questionnaire. How many questions, Roxana? Maybe 4, 5 questions on the QR code, on the questionnaire? Beautiful. So please scan that and respond accordingly. Any questions? I didn't check the chat. Anything in the chat? I don't see anything in the chat. Well, if there are no questions, this is a recorded session. All of our sessions are recorded. We will get this out to you so you have it. But like Roxana said, if you have any questions about the IVF, the process, you know how to reach us via email. We'll respond that way as well. Thank you so much for your time today. Hopefully you found this session very beneficial. As this session ends, we start working on the next session. So if there are any ideas that you'd for a session that you would like to hear from us on, please don't hesitate to share those ideas with us as well. But you know, like I said earlier, we are the only organization in the country that's doing immigration lending, where we take more of a holistic approach and working with you and your clients to help them with all their immigration-related cases. So have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to talking to you again at our next session, which will be next month.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.